Hello, pro wrestling fans. Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Joe Monroe Show. It is I, Joe Monroe, and today we continue on the Podcasters Appreciation Month with a very special guest. He's been on the show before, but before we can hear him out, pun intended, let's mention some sponsors here. First and foremost, we want to thank our longtime sponsor, Phenomenal Finds ATL. If you want anything retro from pro wrestling to The Simpsons to basically anything you can think of, check out phenomenalfindsatl.com. Also want to thank Triple Crown Wrestling and Ultimate Championship Wrestling, who have been our partners since October. Thank you for partnering with us. And also thank you for bringing professional wrestling back as it should be to the state of Kentucky. And we also want to thank Les Murphy Painting. If you have any trouble with painting, whether it be inside or outside, contact Les Murphy at 734-334-3702. And, cuckoo, cuckoo, let's just give a big old shout out to Wilson the Walrus. Why not? Heck, I'm feeling generous today. All right, folks. So enough with the jokes, enough with the games. This episode is actually our very first live episode for Instagram. And I'm happy to have my very special guest. He is the host and creator of the Flynn Hendrix Experience. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you the former and longest reigning UCW Southern States champion, former AIWF television champion, and still current reigning defending TCW All-American champion. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you none other than Flynn Hendrix. Flynn, how you doing, my friend?
Joe, I am doing great. How in the name of sports entertainment are you doing tonight?
I am doing swell.
Are we allowed to say sports entertainment anymore? I can't remember if we had that mandate or not.
No, always pro wrestling on this show. What's wrong with you?
All sports are entertainment, by God.
Yeah, I mean, come on. What was I was talking with a friend, and he goes, "Well, boxing's not sports entertainment." I was like, "Yes, it is." Same with UFC. We just want someone to get knock the hell out or something. That's all we want to see.
Do you pay to see it? Do you sit and watch it by your TV? Are you entertained? Do you cheer? Do you boo? Are you disappointed if the match only goes 5 seconds? It's entertainment, and it's a sport. Sports entertainment.
Time out.
And it's work.
Does this thing, your little tagline, say dude playing the dude disguised as another dude?
Absolutely.
Okay, no more Tropic
Thunder. You can't have AIWF World Television Champion up there anymore for reasons, but
TCW All-American Champion, reigning defending TCW All-American Champion,
DPTDD AAD, maybe.
Close enough. Anyways, close enough. My brain hurts.
We're already off the rails.
Yeah, we're already way off. I figured we would be, but I haven't seen you in a while, man. Where have you been?
To be completely honest, trying to recover and recoup my losses from exposing my emotions and vulnerabilities after the ending of the Caverna Super Show 24, trying to recoup and come back a little bit leaner, a whole lot meaner, and basically just shove it up everybody's backside, remind them why I should be the champion and I'm not. But that'll change on the 20th, Joe. You'll see me in Monticello.
Fair enough. And as always, and yes, I will get the money shot, as you tell me you always get the face, make sure nobody hits the face. Anyways, so let's go ahead and get on to it. First and foremost, thank you again for being part of the Podcasters Appreciation Month. Not many people know, believe it or not, that you have your own show as well. So what we're going to do, let's get you in a solo layout here. Let's go ahead and present. Yeah, look at that face. That's only a face Brandon T. Wilson can love. But, it is what it is. So let's go ahead and let's get started. So what made you, we got into your career a little bit about a month or two ago, right before Caverna. So let's go ahead and let's get into another one of your careers. What made you want to start your own show, the Flynn Hendrix Experience?
So I want to start off by saying right now it's currently on a little bit of a hiatus just due to an insanely busy schedule on my end and my current engineer having some life changes as well. So we're just taking a little bit of a break. It's not done. So if anybody's subscribed, which for the love of God, you better be, don't make me come find you. And nothing's popped up yet. Don't worry. There's still stuff coming, but we're on a little bit of a break. But oddly enough, I'd say probably going back to the start of the pandemic is when I kind of had the seed planted to start a podcast. I kept going back and forth because, it seemed like every other week Conrad Thompson would come out with a new wrestling podcast. And it was just like all my podcast feed was. And I was loving it. I was just loving having all this material, getting all this backstage insight to everything. And hats off to that guy for everything he's done making this podcast empire. But I could just never land on what I wanted to do. And I didn't want to be something that kind of just fell in with everybody else and got lost in the shuffle. So I just kind of molded around. And then oddly enough, about, I'd say maybe about a year and a half later, there was the annual podcasters convention. I forget what it's called, but it was actually happening about 5 minutes away from my house at Gaylord Opryland Hotel. And I was down there doing some work related things. And lo and behold, who do I happen to run into while I'm there? But none other than Double J, Jeff Jarrett, and Conrad Thompson, who were about to go host a panel at this convention. And I was like, okay, I'm doing this job that at the time I wasn't necessarily fulfilled or satisfied with, but I'm sitting here doing this without thinking about it. But I've dragged my feet, drawn this out as long as I can about just doing a podcast. It's time to either crap or get off the pot, to put it bluntly. So I went home and just made a list of all these people that I know, whether it was actors, wrestlers, or whatever, and kind of started to come up with an idea. It's like everybody, has these stories, or you may know somebody famous, but you don't know who helped them on the back end, or these people from cartoons, or their voice from a commercial, but you don't know the person. And come to find out, during the pandemic, we find out a lot more people are dealing with mental health issues than we previously thought or talked about, and myself included. And selfishly, I looked at it as a reason to maybe pick and choose and steal something that might have helped them and helped me too. But I kind of just went with the idea of, this is a little different, but it covers a lot of different genres, so a lot of more people will come in. How did these people get to where they are now? How do they keep going if they've hit these major roadblocks that would tend to deter a lot of other people? And how do they prioritize their mental health and keep their sanity? Like, what did they do? And oddly enough, man, I'm a natural pessimist at heart. I wasn't expecting to get a lot of feedback or a lot of people that were actually interested. But I mean, like within that first night of actually reaching out to people, I had 31 people that were already ready to come on the show. And then it was just a matter of, okay, well, I didn't expect to be this far this fast. Now I've got to set up something where I can record, or now I've got to figure out how to edit this audio. I've got to get, just all this stuff that was going on. And if you go back and listen to it, the first probably 5-6 episodes were like roughly edited by me. So you'll notice a difference as time goes on. But, it was one of those things where it's like a learning process, but at the same time, the goal was still the same of just having a conversation, not necessarily an interview with these people, but just helping humanize them to people that may look up to them and see them as a celebrity or see them as this or that, but also talking about like what they did to overcome their roadblocks, overcome their obstacles, and basically prioritize their mental health and keep the passion in what they're doing when so many people would probably just get burnt out, throw their hands up, or just retreat away from society and hide themselves off until they might want to try and come out again. So, it's been a big learning experience getting to talk to all these people across different fields, like even people like doctors, people with PhDs that are way smarter than me, authors, entrepreneurs, like all these people that go through these processes that everybody tells them they're stupid for trying because it's not the traditional way to do it. And it's like all these people that have never met, they all come off very, I hate to use the term very similar, but the story, like there's a common thread across all of it. And then by the time it's all said and done, I literally feel like I've just wrapped up a conversation with a friend. And that led to the initial I Know You Hear Me podcast, which on the shirt here. And then eventually it turned into the Flynn Hendrix Experience, where I started talking about things just from my perspective. So, I mean, it's been going for about, this year will be 3 years in August. We're on about 5 seasons right now. But I mean, it literally started from all that. And this is where it's at today.
Yeah, that's amazing. I don't know why you keep freezing up like mid-sentence. Yeah, it's weird.
The internet doesn't like me.
Well, we'll blame Dustin. I'm sorry, Dustin.
Fair enough. Damn zebras.
Let's see. Warren Marlowe said, Flynn, great guy and awesome podcast.
Love him. Check out his podcast too, Buzzing with Marlowe. You will not be disappointed. I've been a guest on there quite a few times. Good guy for sure.
And also, we got two referees here. We got referee Dustin James who said, hey. So that's probably why you're cutting in and out. And we got James Adams, senior referee James Adams here. Hey, James, how you doing, buddy? It's been a while. But yeah, man, you were kind of like my inspiration to kind of do this.
Thank you.
Because the transition of getting out of wrestling, like in ring, and just like, okay, what's next? What else can I do? And me and you've talked a little bit, and I was like, maybe I should start my own show or something.
Yeah, so. I mean, at this point too, and one of the things that really blew my mind about like the percentage of people that actually continue doing a podcast compared to the ones that don't, like, just it's a very small percentage of people that we're actually in that continue to do. It's like a 1 to 5% ratio of people that start a podcast or start doing this content that make it past the first 10 episodes. And I don't know the specific number you're on, but I know I'm like over 100 now, probably like 122 or so. But I mean, just the fact that like it's that small of a margin of people that actually continue on. I don't know what that says about us, if we're just like that dedicated or if we're just that stubborn. But I mean, it was a labor of love. And I'll say this too to anybody that's listening. Don't do what I did to the extent that you're burning the candle at both ends and running away from your real life problems just to, talk on a microphone. It's fun. It's cathartic, but at the same time too, like, don't run away from your real life issues, because that's what I did like during a very stressful and traumatic time in my life that I'm still personally dealing with, so make sure you have a fine line. And, like if you can't do something one day and you have to reschedule, don't be afraid to say that. Just be like, hey, this is going on, and I'm not able to do this tonight. Can we reschedule? Something like that,
Yeah, that's what I love about doing this, because we have our own home studios now, technically. Yeah. We're not forcing people to come to a studio. I know there is some people out there that do that. I'm like, what the heck are you doing? Just get them on a computer, make them feel comfortable at home. I mean, nobody's going to be as comfortable than they are at home.
And I mean, don't get me wrong though. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to have a few people where I could get the face-to-face conversations, whether it was in this room or at a convention. And I mean, it's always a great conversation. And I've made plenty of friends now that I've personally never met in real life that I feel like I could consider them a best friend thanks to the internet now. But like when you get that real conversation, like if you and I were to sit in the locker room and do that, it would probably be a little bit more, I don't know if the word's energetic, but I know some people prefer one over the other, but I could go either way. But if you ask me like, hey, when we're in Monticello at the next show, if you want to do this interview in the back, dude, hell yeah. Like I would love to do that, because you never know what's going to happen at that point. Somebody might randomly pop in and we got some new material right there. But it shouldn't be something that's necessarily required if it can't be done, if that makes sense.
Exactly. That's what I was getting at. That's why I have not only this stuff now, but I also have stuff, that I have with me in the Disney bag. I have the famous Disney bag.
Yeah.
James, his podcast is called the Flynn Hendrix Experience.
If you could put Linktree/the Flynn Hendrix, it's got all the links to the platforms. It's even got my YouTube channel, which has some of the filmed interviews and everything that's going on. So if you want to check that out and subscribe, it'd be greatly appreciated. Any reviews are greatly appreciated as well. And Joe, before we go on, I didn't mean to look away at my watch, but I received an offer from someone on eBay, all denim, that I cannot find anywhere down here. Should I accept it?
Why didn't you? This is going to be something personal. We're getting away for a little bit.
I know.
I'm going to say something about this guy. You know what I'm going to say? Monticello, Kentucky, Walmart had the full set, and I asked you, do you want me to get it?
And this is on me, but I didn't see that message until an hour later. I didn't see it until an hour later, but that damn Scott Hall is like, and I'll be honest, today I found the Bret Hart and Roddy Piper Ultimates, and I even found the Rock 3-pack, but I can't find that Scott Hall. Why does it mock me? Why? Anyway,
Well, you found two ultimates I need, Piper and Hart. But yes, as you can tell, we're collectors as well. So there you go.
don't be like us. My wife hates it.
So does my wife. But even though I give my wife her own personal library,
I mean, we spoil them, but by God,
hey,
we spend too much on ourselves. Anyway,
we're probably gonna get yelled at after the show.
oh, I definitely.
But yeah, man. So you're continuing on with the show. You're also
Mhm.
wrestling, and I know that schedule can be very, very hectic.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone that has not necessarily for like wrestling, like try to find what's the best way to keep the balance between the two?
I'll be 100% honest. And this may not be an answer, like a genius answer, but it's a lot of trial and error. What may be the line for me may not be the line for you, or vice versa. But I mean, you've got to play it by ear, because we're all very passionate about things, especially like wrestling, and acting. Even on top of that, acting added in. I've got a quick audition I've got to throw in after this, but it's just finding that balance to the point where the things you're passionate about don't feel like work. You get to keep the mentality of, I get to do this, not I have to do this. And on top of that, too, it again, like I was saying earlier, if you feel off, if it's been a rough day, if something's going on and you just don't feel up to it, do not be afraid to communicate it, because one night is not going to be the end of the world. And that's something I would always have to remind myself of in hindsight, or I would tell myself, but never listen to the advice. Just so do as I say, not as I do, basically. But I mean, just don't be afraid to listen to your body, listen to yourself, and trust your intuition. If you need to take time off, take some time off. It will be there when you come back. If you feel like you can press forward, press forward. If you feel like, hey, should I podcast or should I go spend time with my family? For the love of God, go spend time with your family and then do that later. Like, it doesn't have to be one or the other. And if it really means that much to you and it's something you got to get done, you'll find a way to fit it into your schedule, whether it's getting up before the sun's up or staying up a little bit later and cutting into your sleep. Like there's ways to do it, but you just have to find your own personal balance in it. Because if it was that easy, everybody and their mother and then some would be doing it.
Right, we'd all be billionaires by now.
God willing. Ugh.
We can dream. But
I might
you mentioned
sell my own Bible or sell some shoes. You never know,
Oh, good night, Irene.
The Terry England Bible. The book of Jack Leg.
It's about that thick, probably thicker.
Oh, excuse me while lightning strikes this studio. My apologies. It's either that or Terry's semi is going to hit this house. I don't know.
He is in Nashville. What?
That scares me. That's scary.
Oh, man. So, and referee Dustin James, he says you give me this advice a lot. So,
absolutely. And I mean, I say it, and sometimes I sound like a broken record, but I mean, it's the truest form of an answer I can give, because sometimes the best answer is a simple one. Sometimes we overthink things, we overcomplicate things, and it's just a matter of, like I said, finding that balance that works for you, but not what does for everybody else, because you're your own individual. Oh, I love you too. Be careful. Sorry, that was my wife popping in there.
I was fixing. Well, I know you love me, man, but I'm married. We
of course I love you too. I mean, we're fellow Irishmen, for God's sake.
Better than the Scots, if I may add.
Well, I mean, if The Simpsons has taught me anything, and then WrestleMania 40 this past weekend, everybody hates the Scots.
Poor groundskeeper Willie. I can't do it.
I got to get into it for my Scottish dialect, but it might pop up here in a little bit. We'll see. But I did that Moe's Pop-Up Tavern on Friday, and that's got me in like full-on Simpsons mode right now. So, I mean, that's a hell of an experience.
Hey. Calm down now. Calm down.
I mean, I got Sideshow Bob behind the bar, but that's a different story.
I can somewhat do a Mo. I can somewhat, because Mo kind of sounds like my uncle. No joke. If you hear my uncle and heard Mo, sounds just like him. But speaking of voice acting, you said you did interviews, and we talked about this off camera. The last interview we did, you actually got to interview a lot of interesting people, especially in a fandom. Me, you, and a couple of other fellow wrestlers and workers in the back enjoy Dragon Ball, and
that's something. that's
Your
actually
favorite
become a part
one.
of my entrance music too. Because like the voice of Frieza, depending on when you grew up, like you might have heard one certain company doing a dub of it. I
Mhm.
was growing up in the middle of the transition where it went from like I think Ocean to Funimation,
Mhm.
and that's where my friend Linda Young came in and began doing the voice of Frieza around the Namek saga. So like she's always going to be the OG Frieza for me, and no matter, and I say this with all due respect because one of the actors has passed, but like Chris Ayers, hell of a performer, and I mean he didn't do her Frieza, but the Frieza he did was right up there with it. And then Damon Mills, his voice double, who took over after Chris passed away, they do that voice the justice that Linda did. But I mean, like just hearing Linda do that voice, it was a bit of like asking around, asking some multiple friends, and then finally getting an interview with her. And she's one of the sweetest people you could ever meet that voices this like terrible, evil monster of a villain that just eradicated an entire race or two. But like that was like my favorite villain outside of Vegeta as a character. It's like Vegeta and Frieza, and then Mr. Satan for obvious reasons. But it's like, and then I just randomly asked her. I was like, I'm thinking of doing this here. Would you be willing to like take a Frieza line? I'll send you a few, and I'll make a change to where it's about me and not Frieza. Would you want to do that as part of my entrance and part of my highlight video? Which, if you go to my YouTube channel, you can see the video and hear her doing it. But if you come to a live show, you can hear her voicing the introduction before my music hits, and like the kid in me every time, like it's not lost on me is the best way I can say. Like man, it's probably like the coolest feeling in the world. It's like, I can't believe that this is a real thing, and it's just like, God, this is life now. I'm almost 35 years old, but I'm still geeking out over the voice of Frieza from my childhood being a part of my wrestling package now. Like, how does that work?
Faith.
Something like that, man. I mean, and she's even got she wears my shirt. Like, how the hell does that happen? So
One of the childhood heroes wears something. So aside from her, who else? It doesn't have to be Dragon Ball. Who would probably be the most interesting person that you have interviewed?
let me ask it this way. Do you want interesting person or just interesting interview, period? Because there's a situation that really jumps out that
Okay.
lines up with wrestling if you want to hear that one.
Okay, so we'll do both. So
Okay.
who's your favorite person aside from Linda? And we'll go on with the interaction that you had.
Man, okay, so like I've interviewed a lot of people and I don't want to play favorites with any of them, but like I've interviewed and some of these were actually coaches of mine at one point. I've had Rick Robertson, the voice of Deborah from Dragon Ball Z. I've had man, now I'm drawing a blank. I've had Sonny Strait. He was another coach, the voice of Krillin, Bardock, Goku's father, the one that Frieza killed. I've had my coach Elise Bowman, who like most people know her as the voice of Pan from Dragon Ball GT. And I would probably say she was one of my most favorite interviews. She was my I called it my season 3 finale because like it was just one of those, like she'd been advertising on my show, and it was just kind of like subtly building up to that when we could finally lock down a time and do that. But just her energy, her positivity, and being able to say like we went from a teacher student relationship to actually being friends and collaborating with each other on things, like that just blows my mind. But like she's been a real confidence booster even in times when I feel like I'm not doing enough, and like she always knows the right thing to say, or she just the universe puts her, like she sends me a message at the right time, like, hey, just checking in, wanted to remind you that you're doing awesome, like just all these different things. And it's like I don't know how I got lucky enough to meet these people and call them friends now, but like now how can I even like have that mentality and not be so hard on myself, if that makes sense? But like Elise was definitely one of the best ones that I've interviewed. And then the one that followed her up was the voice of Porky Pig, Bob Bergen, that replaced Mel Blanc as the original voice of Porky Pig. Like, again, another voiceover instructor that I did through a group session. Now I'm waiting to get individual coaching with him. That's a however many years long list, but like just him coming, like wanting to have that interview and having multiple people give me a nod of approval on that, saying, hey, he's a good guy. You'll have a fun time talking to him. And we didn't go through the basics of like, well, how'd you land this? Or how'd you do this? It was more like, one of his caveats was ask me questions that are interesting. Ask me questions that I haven't been asked before. So like, I actually had to study up on that one. And it was probably one of the most insightful interviews like I've ever done, because I came away learning stuff from it. And, you know, it's like, if you're an aspiring actor, like, if you become an actor or you start getting jobs as a voiceover, whether it's voiceover acting, whatever, you're no longer aspiring. You are doing it. But if you're somebody that's wanting to get in, or you're somebody that's been doing it, even if it's not like acting related, listen to that interview, because he gives you like stuff you can use in everyday life too. Like, he's a wealth of knowledge, and somebody of that celebrity, I mean, he's still as humble as can be. Like, he's just an everyday guy. So, I mean, there's my marketing coach, my buddy, Corey Disson, who, if you've ever seen me use the phrase, go get it, that's where that comes from. He did my website. He did my brand colors. Like, he's been on there twice. And like, there's just so much. Like, if you can't listen to those interviews and get motivated by him, you might want to get checked out by a doctor, because that dude, like, if he doesn't make excuses, and he's not going to let you make excuses either. He holds you accountable. Like, he's a genius. And I will say that with all, like, till the day I die. So like, just some of those interviews, man, and a lot of them are back to back. So if you get a chance, just go dig in. And another one, I'm thinking of how many I've done now. My friend Duncan Brannon, voice actor, did the voice of Bobbity that most people would probably recognize him for in Dragon Ball. And I believe he just got back for some games that are coming out. But we talked about that a little bit. He was also the voice of Barney the dinosaur. He was the voice double there. And, you know, we started talking about his journey from voice acting to becoming a pastor down in Texas. I believe he's the head of Sentinel Ministries now. He had a book come out called The Soldier Code, like ancient warrior wisdom for modern day Christianity, and like how these things apply to our walk with faith and everything. And he trusted me to come on for an interview. And then he also trusted me to be one of the interviews that was there promoting his book. And just like all these different things, hearing his journey, finding Christ, like all these different things that you wouldn't expect, especially in today's day and age. Like, it was just so refreshing to have these conversations. So, I mean, I can't say I'm picking favorites, but any of those people that I just named, if you go back and listen to those episodes, man, like you'll come away, you'll learn something, whether you're in that field or not. Or hell, go even listen to the one with Guy Gilchrist, who was the artist for Jim Henson and the Muppets. That guy, man, gave me an hour and a half of his time after meeting at a couple conventions, and we still keep in touch now. Like that, the guy that drew the Muppets, the guy that did the I think it's Nancy, the cartoon strip, the little girl with the black curly hair, like the guy that does this stuff that I grew up around. I can call him, I can text him. He did an intro for my show. Like, you know, like, how does that happen? And just go listen to any of those, because they're all like so entertaining. And then hell, even the ones of the unknown, so to speak, like people that you may not know, but you will one day. There's so many guys and girls in there that are just the conversations, their stories, man. Like, if you don't know them now, I'm willing to bet that you'll know them down the road for sure. But that's kind of my long way around not picking a specific favorite. But I can tell you the most interesting interview I've ever done.
Go ahead with that one.
Oh, so this was man, actually it's about 2 years ago now. Just past the 2-year mark. I actually interviewed former NWA and UFC champion Dan Severn. Now, the caveat was I had to email him, get his phone number, all this, did his little questionnaire so he could screen me, basically. But our conversation took place at about 11:30 at night, my time, as he's driving cross country from Arizona to Ohio for the Arnold Classic. And it was basically just our conversation of him ranting and rambling on the road while he's driving, staying awake, because he wasn't going to stop. He wasn't going to stop and sleep. He wanted to talk about America's obesity problem. Like just all this stuff. And like, I'd heard some interesting stories about him. I'd heard about like his insanely low heart rate, just like all this stuff. And it's like, we didn't get off the phone until about 1 or 1:30 in the morning. I'm dead ass tired. I was tired going into it. I didn't think it was going to happen, but it's just like, wow. And that's when I kind of had to do old school where like he called me. I had to plug my phone into a charger and hold it up to the microphone so it could pick him up. And, you know, it's just like, it would drop in and out every now and then as he was going through like the desert, losing service. But I mean, it's just like, go back into one of the earlier seasons. I think it's season 2 or maybe the start of season 3, but go in there and listen to that because I mean, it's just like the most random out there interview. But I mean, I can say I interviewed Dan fucking Severn. My apologies on the language, but like the only guy to wear the NWA world title and the UFC heavyweight championship on WWF television at the time. Like, who can say that? You know, like
the thing that popped in my mind as soon as you said he was driving and ranting, I'm like, why didn't we get Terry England on this phone conversation and just recorded both of them ranting at each other? Have you gotten those voice messages before?
I've gotten multiples. I've gotten ones that are 12 minutes long, and I'm sitting here wondering how I'm going to listen to this without getting distracted. How many times his ringtone is going to go off? Is somebody going to cut him off? And then on top of that, too, speaking of trying to interview him, I've also convinced myself and multiple other people I could have a one-man interview of me asking the questions and then me chiming in as Terry to answer the questions because I feel like I know exactly how he would answer. I mean, like, this man is to put it lightly, the man, the myth, the legend. He is, but I mean, I can't say enough good things about Terry regardless. If you ever wanted to come on, I'd be more than willing to have him.
I can't either, man. He supports both of us pretty heavily. But yeah, man, it's been a ride. I can tell you that.
And oddly enough, speaking of the ride and Terry and this podcast, oddly enough, serendipity. It was probably about November, December of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
I interviewed Vic the Bruiser in one of my first 10 episodes or 12 or something like that. But oddly enough, I get asked to come back for his retirement show, which we thought was going to be Caverna 22. All the while, come to find out, not only did Vic want me there because it was like booking matches he wanted to see, it was Terry that put the bug in his ear to get him to convince me to come back because I planned on stepping away and pursuing acting at that point. And I mean, like, had Terry not planted that seed, had that conversation not happened, man, everything I've done since then, whether it's with UCW, TCW, the brief stuff with WWE a couple years ago, like none of that would have happened. The AIWF World Television title reign, none of that would have happened if Terry hadn't planted that seed or thought enough of me to bring that, to make that happen. So, I mean, and I didn't even have to think twice about it, which still surprises me. I said yes on the spot. I didn't even talk to my wife about it. It's like, hey, I'm doing this again. Guess what? And hey, I'm stealing the Southern States title my first night back. And I didn't say, nobody said yes or no. I just did it.
You're just like,
okay, I mean, and it's all because of Terry. So anything, if you hate me, you love me, blame Terry and this podcast. But go subscribe.
All right, bro. Jeez, poor Terry. He's gonna make us take out sponsorship and give him money for mentioning him so much on this show. Man, he's probably gonna listen to this tomorrow and be like, "All right, Joe, Flynn, you both owe me money, $500 a piece, no questions asked. It's in the contract." What contract, Terry?
My pay is free publicity.
There you
and
go.
High praise.
Oh man. Yeah, we can't say the walrus's actual name because I don't like giving him high praise. But brother, do what?
That man is my boss on one of those shows.
He's my boss too, but I don't care. All right. Months being humiliated in public, I'm just like, I don't care anymore. I'm like that bum on the street. Just do what you want. I don't care. Anyways, brother, it's we're about 5 minutes past the cutoff mark.
I talk a bit. My apologies.
No, it's cool. So Danielle asked, "Hey Danielle, how you doing?" Yes, he will be at the next show for UCW, which will be at the Aspire Center on April 20th. So be sure to be there. Go ahead and plug that in real quick.
Absolutely.
And also, if you can, go like, subscribe, follow, whatever button you have to do to support this man right here. Go support him. Of course, you can go ahead and subscribe to the Joe Monroe Show if you haven't already. If not, him and James Kendrick will probably hunt you down.
Absolutely. I'll
James
make
Kendrick.
James do it, but
That's fixed. James has done it to like 15 people, and I got 15 subscribers like that. But
nice.
that's hearsay.
Work your magic, James.
Yeah, working magic there, bud.
I helped you become Southern States champion once. You owe me. Nice tooth out during that too, supposedly. Allegedly.
Allegedly. That's hearsay, right?
Hearsay or hear speak. I don't
know. All right, brother. Well, it's been fun, man. I try to keep this about 30 minutes, under an hour. What did I do? James asked. What didn't you do? Should be the question.
I don't know. James. You helped me realize I didn't really knock that person's tooth out. So you did the Lord's work there, as far as I'm concerned.
Wait, what? Time out. Hang on. Before we leave, I got to hear this story.
God almighty. Okay. So, run-in situation. Hot main event of Brandon Wolf defending his Southern States Championship against James Kendrick, right?
Which month was this? Do you remember?
This would have been about July or August. Probably August.
I think I know what you're talking about.
I'm not going to say I suffered a humiliating defeat somewhere in the middle of all that, but I might have suffered a humiliating defeat earlier in the night, so I was already pissed off. But come to run out and make the distraction. I get pulled off the apron in my flip-flops, and I'm being punched by the walking real-life Jack Skellington in blue genie pants, right? So I'm doubled down trying to cover up. I come up and bust my arms open to push him back. And supposedly, somewhere in the middle of all that, despite only touching his arms, there goes a tooth. And I felt bad. I'm not going to lie. I'm like, oh, I mean, at least I didn't break a rib on him or anything, but okay. And then come to find out, as I'm questioning whether or not I really should feel guilty, who should happen to tell me, hey, you didn't really do that. Don't feel guilty. He's a lying sack of turd. Good old James Kendrick. So,
there's one less tooth for the sandwich he needs. Good job.
I mean, let's be honest too. There's one less jackleg in the locker room now because I got rid of him in November. So,
yeah. Apologies, I brought that up on the show last time. So,
I mean, look. He may be off doing UNICEF commercials now. He may be off doing those Sally Struthers starving African children commercials. I don't know. Either way, I hope to God he's far away from a wrestling ring because protect the business, by God.
Sad part is me and this guy, he's talking about get along, and I'm sorry, but it's funny.
I thought we did too. I thought we did too behind closed doors, but apparently not. I'm a bitter person.
Speaking of bitter, you want to talk about Caverna?
Do we have time?
Yeah, it's your time.
Oh, I'm still pissed about that. I'm still pissed. I bled for God's sake. I bled for 2 years. For 2 years. I even fought through the curtain and knocked a 70-year-old man over, for God's sake. Tell me I'm not dedicated. I was the only person to hold that championship before it was brought into that building at the first night of what was supposed to be a tournament last year in Salina. I was the only person to hold that championship, and that has been my goal. I'm not trying to be corny or be cliche, but that is my white whale. I have to have that championship before it's all said and done because I want to have the proof that I am the face of this company. Because, I mean, I'm not saying it to blow smoke, but I've been at every show when the main champion wasn't there. I was there with the Southern States title. Brandon Wolf was there chasing me, or somebody, Marty Clay, whoever. I was there. I want what's due to me. They say the wrestling business doesn't owe you anything. This time it owes me that championship, and I'm going to get it come hell or high water. So, I mean, At least I wasn't pinned. Some human snapping turtle got pinned. That's on him. He cost me, so I hate him even more now. But, it is what it is. I showed my vulnerability to you, Joe. Maybe I'm a human on the inside. I don't know. But
I don't know. Didn't you say, and I quote, every redneck inbred piece of trash was right in the middle of that interview? Am I correct on that?
in that mindset, I did have that question going on. Am I good enough? Were they right? Am I, it made me wonder, because it felt like that was my moment. Like the universe was pulling all that together, because once again, not to sound so egotistical, but last year at 23, Chris Michaels and Francisco Chiazzo, God rest his soul, were like the garnish added to the steak of me and Brandon Wolf and him chasing me for that Southern States championship. This year, what should have been the stake of me and Brandon Wolf fighting it out for the ultimate prize in this area, and I say that with every belief of every ounce of my body, that, again, Chris Michaels and James Ellsworth. Chris Michaels, as deserving as he is, he hasn't been there. He hasn't been at every show. I have. I hate to give him his due, but Brandon Wolf has, and that's what irks me. That's what irks me. But my God, you see why he's the veteran he is now, why he has the career that he has, because he outsmarted all three of us and walked away with the championship of the company that he helped Terry England found. So, there's a reason now you see his trainees still on TV like Randy Orton. There's a reason that John Cena's had the career that he has, and it's because he had his hands on it, and he is probably one of the most credible people to hold that championship. But at the same time, I can't sit here and give him all his flowers, because I feel like it's owed to me, and that's where we're at.
Okay, well, you didn't seem too emotional this time. No offense.
No, I've had a chance to let it stew and simmer and get that bitter taste back in my mouth.
Something I always wonder, how do you super kick someone's chin when they don't have a chin in the first place?
Hopefully he kicked him in the nose.
I don't know. I didn't even know I had a nose. Anyways, sorry, James. I got to pick on you a little bit, buddy. I pick on a little bit of everybody. I even picked on my good buddy. I'm sorry you don't like the man, but I picked on my good buddy, Brandon Wolf. I'm friends with everybody. You know that.
I'm going to say this right now. I may not like him, but he's starting to grow on me. I respect him. I respect that he won't take no for an answer. That's the attitude you've got to have in today's day and age to get by. So I respect him for that. Okay.
But let's shift gears for a little bit here. Let's talk about wrestling a little bit if you got some time,
dude. You got me to late.
Okay, so we got the TCW television tournament going on as we speak right now. And speaking of Brandon Wolf, this past week he actually advanced in that tournament. Now, you being the TCW All-American champion, how does that make you feel? Because this is a brand new title.
Here's my question. Why am I not in the tournament, whether I have a TCW championship around my waist already or not? I didn't know that other champions could be in this. In all honesty, if you want to look at it, I was the world television champion. Why would you not just go ahead, I hate to say, pull an Eric Bischoff and hand it to me? But I think my resume speaks for itself. You look at the acting resume, you look at the wrestling resume, you look at everything I've done, it just makes sense. But sometimes the things that make sense apparently just don't happen, and there's a prejudice against me. I don't know. Maybe it's my hairy chest, but I'm wondering why I'm not in that tournament, because that belt is beautiful.
It could be that you're Irish. It is Brandon T. Wilson's tournament.
Well,
just saying.
I thought we were on good terms now, but either way, everybody hates the Scots.
But we all hate the English. Remember that.
Anyway.
But yeah, there's the TCW television tournament. Actually, hang on, let me get the results here. I did the recap. So for those who haven't watched the recap, it's now on Facebook and just Facebook right now. I have it uploaded on YouTube here in a little bit after I get done here. Let's see. Okay, Tyler Lee Deputy advanced by picking up a win over Party Man Cameron. Yeah, Party Man Cam's back since your absence.
God help us.
He's a weirdo. Go watch the interview that I did with him and you'll understand.
Oh, I did. I had to turn it off because I couldn't understand half of what he said. But anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, Brandon Wolf advanced. Now, who didn't advance, speaking of James Kendrick and Adrian Alexander did not advance due to a double disqualification because, well, I can say it's on my show. They kicked each other in the nuts and the referee spotted it. So there you go.
So that's a double disqualification. I mean,
that's a double DQ and no one advances per Terry England and the board and all that.
Why don't they make things right and just give me the bye?
I mean, that there you go. There could be an argument there. I'm not saying that you should do it, but
I mean, what is that's Bret Hart 97 all over again? Good Lord.
But here's something that is kind of a conspiracy over the old rival of yours. Marty Clay went up against Chris Crow. Now, I had nothing, but I still have a little bit of respect for Chris Crow. But, since Caverna, he's been doing some shady stuff. But it went to a time limit draw. Then the decision of the winner was done by a coin toss, which Chris Crow won.
Yeah. They brought the coin toss back?
The Terry England came out with the coin toss, pulled out the old school ruling. Chris Crow called it, and Chris Crow won the coin toss. Even though Marty had his arm broke because he fought forever in a Kimura lock. And then you'll see it on the recap. While I was interviewing Marty, Chris Crow decides to jump Marty, and I had to break it up.
I saw that.
And that was just...
I mean, you should have just let him go. I mean,
no security around, and I'm like, well, let me get in the middle of these two before they get the cops called on them. And that's the last thing we need. Because
then they both get tased. They both stay away from me. I mean, it all works out, Joe.
Oh, good Lord. All right. And again, no offense to you, my friend. You always make it about you. Okay, Toby, take it easy.
I mean,
but
17 years now.
But hang on. Let me play exactly what Mr. Wolf said. If I can get it in the microphone here, it might be too loud.
Is it a bunch of howling? Is it Duran? What are we talking about here?
No, it's not Duran.
Now qualifying in the TCW television title tournament because as of right now, I am the UCW Southern States champion. But soon enough, tournament's not done. I will also be at the end the TCW television champion. That's got a good ring to it.
And that's what he said.
I have one question. I know he's not here to answer right now, but I'm going to pull a page out of Cat Williams' book. Why is you hollering?
He was excited.
I mean, is he big enough to carry multiple championships?
Oh, good Lord.
It's a fair question.
Flynn, you guys are the same height, buddy.
I'm talking about size-wise.
Okay, well.
I mean, never mind the fact that he can manhandle me at will, but that's a different story. Stunt wire.
Well, it does help that me and him went out on the town that morning, and had a good time. And he was with me when I got my memorial tattoo for my grandfather here. So he was with me during that. He is a good friend of mine. We do hang out. Believe it or not, wrestlers and personalities do hang out outside of wrestling. So he was in a good mood. Plus, he came off a win against Travis Liddell. And believe it or not, it was a good psychology match. But of course, Brandon was able to get the upper hand on Travis Liddell.
I heard it's hard to keep that Travis Liddell guy down, but good on him.
Right. But yeah, so what's your thoughts about first the tournament itself? You're saying like you should just go ahead and get a bye through all of it, and you should be crowned champion. But that's not how this tournament works. I'm sorry. Plus, having an old rival like Brandon Wolf advancing into to the quarterfinals like he has, yet you're not in it.
So my thought on this and my suggestion is the following. The crowd should be asking when I'm not there, when I'm not being seen, where is Flynn? Why is Flynn not in this tournament? The backstage, the announcers, the crew, the talent themselves should be saying, where's Flynn? We want Flynn. Why is Flynn not in this tournament? It's very, very reminiscent of The Simpsons and Poochie. Where is Poochie? Why is Poochie not on screen? Where is Flynn? Why is Flynn not in this tournament? He was the gatekeeper of who's TV ready. So
you compared yourself to Poochie. I can't believe it. Okay, well, Well, all I gotta say is you should air your grievances with none other than one Brandon T. Wilson, and that's all I gotta say about that, as Forrest Gump says. But until next time, we're going to go ahead and end it here. Because you're getting a little red, I don't want you to explode on me, because whatever status good gracious I have on your status right now, I want to keep for a little bit longer.
I'm not gonna lie, that's pre-workout kicking in for my jog later. So you're good right now, but don't cross that line.
Oh, okay. But I do want to say thank you all for tuning in. Again, go subscribe to Flynn Hendrix at all of his social media outlets. Go subscribe to the Joe Monroe Show on all of our social media outlets. And until next time, I do want to thank you. Stay safe. Have a great night. And always, 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 always support professional wrestling.
Absolutely.